Welcome to Alan's Italy. Tonight we have a really great show for you. We will be looking at Pompeii, one of the most famous archaeological sites in the world. First, a few announcements. My photographer and my wife, Laura Gurton, will be curating a show tomorrow called Micromorphic, which will appear at the Klein Art James Gallery in Woodstock. The show actually began today, but the opening, the ceremony will occur tomorrow. That's May 5th from 4 to 6. And we welcome you to stop by and to see what I believe is a really, really great show. Another thing, the LifeSpring Socrates program asked me to promote an event that they're having. I'm going to be teaching in the program in the fall. I'm going to be doing an Alan's Italy type thing for 6 weeks, in which I kind of take people on a 6-week tour of Italy. And they run a very, very professional organization. I know people who have taken courses there. They like it very much. I met a number of the people, and they're really good professional people. This is called Artworks. It's going to take place at the Woodstock Jewish Center out on just off of 212. It's going to be on Wednesday, July 25th, 2012 from 8 to 5. And they will be having workshops related to art and acting and music and writing and movement. So I will remind you as the time gets closer, but right now that's what's going on with the LifeSpring people, and it sounds like a great program. Now, a feature that I've decided that I'm going to include in the show will be a few minutes at the beginning of the show giving you some news of Italy. And one of the publications that I get regularly is called the Florentine Newsletter, which really has some great and interesting information. And the one thing that I really found fascinating yesterday was something that I've been waiting for a few months now, and that is the new high-speed rail system has begun. According to the article in the Florentine, it began on April 28th, which was last week. It's called the NTV, which is Nuovo Trasporto Viaggiatore, and it is a high-speed rail system. It's going to be using some of the secondary train stations throughout Italy. For example, the one that goes from Rome to Milano will be originating in Tiburtina, which is not the main train station. The main train station in Rome is, of course, Termini, and it's going to end up in Milano at the Rogeretto stop, and it's going to take 3 hours to get from Rome to Milan, which is a really great time. It doesn't take that much longer now with the Eurostar, but this is like a really great thing, and I'm certainly looking forward to when that occurs. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is introduce to you our guest for this evening, Franc Palaia. Welcome back. It's a pleasure to have you back again.
Thank you, Alan. Nice to be back.
And I'd like to, may I? This is the, would you like to talk about this?
Well, I guess I could.
Okay,
Sure.
go ahead.
Just by coincidence today, Friday, I have a full-page article about a project I'm doing in Poughkeepsie, which relates to the show because it's a mural that I'm painting this summer in Poughkeepsie's Little Italy. It's a really cute, nice neighborhood, and we're trying, a group of us formed a couple of years ago. Just sort of organically, we just would meet in a cafe, local cafe, the Cafe Boca, and we came up with a name for our group called FLIP. That's an acronym, and it stands for Friends of Little Italy Poughkeepsie. And we do different projects in the neighborhood. We clean up the neighborhood, we put on performances, music, and I thought a mural would be a nice addition to the neighborhood. So the article is about my other mural in Poughkeepsie and then the new one that I'm doing this summer. And just happened to come out today. I thought I would mention that.
Okay,
So
thank you
that's
very
the
much.
Poughkeepsie Journal.
We'll keep an eye on that.
Mhm.
How's the food in the Poughkeepsie Little Italy?
Well, it's very authentic.
Is it really?
People tell me that people actually come from New York City to buy the pastries. There's two wonderful
right?
pastry shops. Yes, that's pretty amazing. Competing with New York, and then there's two cafes. There's two bakeries, a hair salon. There's a couple of restaurants, a school, a church. It's a very nice little neighborhood. It's not as busy and packed as it used to be years ago in terms of Italian stores, but it's sort of making a comeback.
Right.
Hopefully, the mural will spur
The
some
one
more
judge,
interest.
the one judge I use is, how is the gelato? Is it gelato of Italy?
Well, just today I was in the cafe.
Vivoli, Florence?
Well, and it's tough to
Yeah,
compete.
that's yeah.
But just today I was in Cafe Aurora, which is one of the oldest cafes there. It's about 60, 70 years it's been there. And they just started selling gelato, and I had one today, and spumoni. And they gave me a free sample, and it was pretty creamy and smooth and, soft. It wasn't hard like American ice cream that gives you the brain freeze.
Right,
That's just,
right.
I don't like American ice cream. Because gelato, the difference is, there's two differences. It's made with milk and not cream, so it's less fattening. And the temperature,
Gelato is less fattening.
gelato is less fattening because it's made with milk and not cream, like
Right.
American ice cream. And then the other thing that makes it different is that the temperature is higher. In other words, it's not 40 below zero. It's kept at just a little bit below freezing, so it's not so rock hard. That's why it's so creamy and delicious and soft.
Okay, I haven't eaten much today.
Those are two things. But so they basically that's the and of course the old story.
Do you know a lot about food, Italian? food?
Yeah.
Do you
Growing up,
really?
yeah, eating it all my life. And
Okay,
making it.
there's a future show.
Okay.
Because I have a food show planned, and I don't
Okay,
yet
good.
have a food expert.
Good.
So
And about one quick thing about ice cream, since we're talking about Italian ice cream, supposedly the Romans invented ice cream. One of the emperors, it was hot, no air conditioning in Rome, and some people were bringing the emperor some ice and some fruit, and they kind of spilled together in the same batch. And it tasted really great to have the fruit and
Sure, yeah.
and the ice, and that's how they invented ice cream.
Okay.
That's the story anyway.
okay,
Sounds
so
good.
all right,
Sounds
so let's
believable.
let's go on to tonight's show, and it's about Pompeii. However, it's called The Photographs of Secret Pompeii. So I'm interested to know, and my viewers are probably interested to know, what's so secret about the secret photographs of secret Pompeii?
Well, that's a really great title photo there used. That looks really terrific. That particular photo is not so secret. That I photographed in the Museo Nazionale Archeologico, which is
in Naples.
in Naples,
Oh,
which is
is
a
that right?
phenomenal museum. If you ever go to Naples, go there first,
I've been to that museum.
because it's not like any other museum for a lot of reasons. First of all, it's very big, and it's got the most amazing Pompeii and Roman sculpture. It's mostly known for two things: the sculpture, which are enormous marble sculptures, the biggest you've ever seen in your life, and there's dozens and dozens of them, beautifully installed, perfect condition. Just that alone, if it just had the sculpture, it would be worth the visit. But then it has a lot of paintings and frescoes from Pompeii that were taken out of Pompeii, luckily, in very, very good
Cut
condition.
right out of the wall.
Yeah, and so you can actually see, and again, hundreds and hundreds of Pompeii of frescoes, and so that photo there is from that.
Oh,
that,
okay.
So that's not actually in situ. That's in the museum, but
Okay.
it looks good as a
So
shot.
most of the things we're going to be looking at, though, when we get to the actual wall decorations, are what you refer to as secret Pompeii. So tell us
A little
about
bit
that.
of both. A little bit of both. Well, my wife Eve Dombra, who's an art historian, scholar, and she had a residency at the American Academy in Rome for 4 months, and part of her duties she received a beautiful apartment and stipend and everything. Part of her duties in return for that is that she had to be a guide for students to classical archaeological sites like Pompeii, Paestum, etc. So we went to Pompeii, and she lectured about the frescoes and the sites, the piazzas, the sculpture, the mosaics, etc. And of course, I'm a photographer. I got to go, and I took advantage of that opportunity, and I photographed a lot of the secret rooms that we visited, because as a scholar, my wife had special permission to go into rooms that the average tourist cannot go. So I was really excited, because I've been to Pompeii many times before that, but I had never been to these secret rooms.
Wow.
So, and we stayed for a long time. We didn't just breeze through, because she had to talk about the frescoes. So we were there for like an hour in each room. So I have some photographs of those
Okay.
rooms, and some of them, let's see, one of them is the House of the Faun, but that's on the outside. The Villa of the Mysteries, which is a famous one. Also, the House of Fabius Rufus, and so I got to go up close and personal to the frescoes. I didn't have a guard actually looking down over my shoulder, so I could get within a foot, and I took some beautiful detail shots of some cherubs.
Sort of like
and
being
angels.
at the Metropolitan Museum of Art on a Monday when it's closed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great experience.
Yeah. So we were really.
Well, that's good. I'm
lucky.
very excited about that. I thought we would start the show, however, tonight by just kind of talking about Pompeii. We'll locate it for our viewers. We'll talk a little bit about why it's so famous, what happened there that was so special, and then we'll get into that. We'll show some rooms and then get into the actual art. So here's Italy, the picture I always show of Italy. And here's Naples right here. Here's the Isle of Capri over here. Pompeii is right in this area here. I have a better map, a more close-up view, right below Naples.
A little south of Naples.
Yeah,
Right.
this is a map that I took from someplace. And I wanted to show this for a number of reasons. First, because it shows Naples very clearly on the left-hand side of the page there. And then, if you take this is the main train that goes from Naples to Salerno. But this is a train known as the Vesuviana Railway that goes right around here, starting in Naples and winding up in Sorrento. And and one of the first stops you come to, it's not this. These aren't the only stops. There's like quite a few stops, but this is Herculaneum, which is one of the sites that was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius erupting. And then here's Pompeii. Here's Vesuvius right behind it. You can see the proximity there. And then as you go around, you go over here. And I just wanted to point out to my audience that I am planning on doing 4 shows on this region. The first is tonight on Pompeii. But I would also like to do a show on the Bay of Naples. And in that show, I'm going to be talking about Naples, Sorrento, and Capri. Then I'm going to talk about the Amalfi Coast, which is, if you see Positano over there on the south, I'm going to talk about some of the towns along the Amalfi Coast, Positano, Ravello, Amalfi. And then we're going to have a show in which you'll be participating in, which is the Paestum show, and that you can see all the way over there at the bottom. Okay, so there's Pompeii, and this is what Pompeii looked like prior to August 24th, 79 AD. And remember that was the date that Mount Vesuvius erupted, and over a 6-hour period, the town was buried in volcanic ash. But this is what the town would look like, and the site we're looking at is the Forum. And you can see how well built up it is around there. And this is an even better picture because this colorizes what it must have looked like back then. You can see the beautiful houses with the peristyle gardens. Are those are called?
Cortile. The
Cortile in the center. So this was a very lively town. You could see people in the streets, and this is typical of a Roman town. Go ahead.
Yeah, Alan, I just want to mention that Pompeii, remember, this is sort of the peak of the Roman Empire. And Pompeii was a little bit above the average Pompeii town. It was prosperous, it was very artistic. It wasn't a very big city, but it was perfectly designed, and it was sort of in its peak of beauty. And every house had frescoes inside and outside and mosaics. And it was sort of the quintessential Roman town. And so in a way, if there was any town that to be buried, this town kind of shows the rest of the world what a very typical small Roman city looked like. And I thought of this, the whole Pompeii story. It's basically the town became a giant time capsule.
Right.
It was absolutely freeze frozen in time in a matter of maybe a day or two. Actually, it took a couple of 3 days for it to totally be buried. It didn't happen all at once.
Right.
But anyway, so it's really a time capsule, and the whole story of how it was discovered and the many years of excavating. It's quite an amazing story. But it's lucky for us because it's pretty well preserved, and we get to see a lot of the.
And we're going to move on to that. This is another view of what it looked like. It seemed quite beautiful. So Roman towns didn't always look this beautiful.
No, not really. No, but yeah.
This was a wealthy town. Okay, so then of course, this is prior to 79 A.D., August 24th, and then of course, Vesuvius looming in the background, and on I think it was on the morning of August 24th, 79 A.D. Vesuvius erupted. I took this picture off the internet.
Nice.
And this shows what people were dealing with that morning. They're all. You can see the people are in the streets because they're saying, "What the heck's going on here?"
Pretty scary. Yes.
And they're going to get a full dose of this very, very soon. I looked for a picture of what it looked like when things were buried, a reconstruction similar to this, but what happened when it was inundated by 75 feet of volcanic ash. It took, according to what I've read, 6 hours of the actual horrible stuff coming down. But as you indicated, it took days for all of that stuff to finally come down. And this is the only picture I could find, and this is a modern picture, of what the rubble looked like. And it was to a height of 75 feet that people were buried. And just a couple of facts about it. This is all estimation, but the estimation of the population of Pompeii prior to the disaster was 20,000. And in the year 62 A.D., there was an earthquake which measured 5 to 6 on the Richter scale, which caused a tremendous amount of damage and destruction. And they found evidence, archaeologists found evidence in the houses that remained of the damage that had been incurred during the earthquake of 62 A.D. So they were in the process in 79 A.D. of still repairing.
Well, yeah, it was some 15 years before the eruption.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So 17 years. And we get most of our information from a fellow named, you have to correct my pronunciation if I don't get this, Pliny the Younger.
Pliny, yeah.
Pliny the Younger was in Misenum, which was across the Bay of Naples, and his uncle, Pliny the Elder, was the admiral of the fleet who saw this going on and took the fleet right to Pompeii to try to evacuate some of the people who were trying to survive, and he himself was killed in that. Now they think that it took place on August 24th, 79 A.D., but there's some evidence to suggest that it actually took place in October, because the people were not wearing such warm clothing as they might be wearing in August. The clothing was a little heavier, which might indicate that it started to get a little cooler. And also, when they excavated, they found food products that may have been, not harvested yet in August. So let's see what else I have. It was the heat that mainly caused most of the deaths. The heat was up to 250 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, that's
Excavation began by accident in 1599 when they were trying to divert a water supply, and they kind of found some of the
Yeah.
buildings.
They found a hole, or they made a hole to for the water, and they knocked on the ground, and it sounded hollow. So they dug down, and they found these big cavities, and then they started finding the figures, that are frozen in time and kind of like plaster cast.
Yes.
Well, actually, they poured plaster in these cavities, then they filled the
Right.
plaster, then they broke away the earth around it, and they found.
I had a
different
few of
shape
those
the
pictures.
bodies.
I had a few of those pictures,
Which is pretty amazing.
and the pictures are amazing, and I found it a little disturbing. And I know that some children watch this show, and I didn't want to. It could be a
Well-
little weird, so I didn't want to show that.
Well, think of them as George Siegel sculptures, because
Right.
that's sort of where he got his idea.
But the scenes you see of those bodies are like in states of,
yeah,
I mean, they're in the process of dying, and I thought that was a little too much.
yeah,
to really get
very
into.
painful positions. Yeah.
But excavation really took place in the 18th century. And, this is what we see now. We walk around the streets of Pompeii now, and these are what the ruins look like. And you can see that, and this was completely unknown for hundreds and hundreds of years during the time that this had not been discovered yet. This is what the Forum looks like. You can see Vesuvius in the background there.
Well, you can imagine the work involved to take away all that earth and lava and gravel and rubble, a whole town, and it's not just a little site. And they're still digging, they're still finding things. It's just incredible, the whole experience.
Right.
And
A
then-
large percentage has not been uncovered yet.
Right, and then there's Ercolano or Herculaneum, which is a
Right.
smaller little village, and same thing there. And then also Oplantis, which is even smaller. It's kind of like a villa that was buried. That has beautiful frescoes in it. I've been there too, and it's very small. And then there's a couple of other towns along that train line that you mentioned.
Right.
Because they're all like a string of pearls on a line, all surrounding Vesuvius.
Right. This is the theater that is pretty well preserved, and this is a street in Pompeii, and there were shops along the side, houses, and
What's interesting about the streets. Not all the streets, but some of the streets have these little kind of stepping stones so you can cross the street on these higher stones so you don't get wet. Now, there you go. And also it allows the carts to go through. It
Yes.
doesn't disrupt the cart traffic.
I thought
And
this
that's
was amazing.
just
I
a
put this
brilliant,
in. Isn't this amazing?
brilliant, easy way to,
Make it easy for people to get from
Right,
one side of the
right.
street to the other
and the
without.
carts can still go.
Nice
and,
thing.
And you don't get wet, and it's just an amazingly simple solution to a problem. Yeah.
Okay, so that's what that looked like. This is actually the House of Ill Repute,
Oh, okay.
Lupanate, and they
Yeah.
used to throw a mattress on this.
I
This
hope
is-
so.
Yeah, I would hope so, because it's a stone bed.
Doesn't look comfortable, yeah.
You know what this is? This is called a thermopolium, which was a fast food.
That's a store, basically.
Yes,
Yeah.
because people did not have their own kitchens, and
No.
if they wanted food, they used to go out
Mhm.
to one of these places, and they used to partake in some of the food.
Right. Each
that
bin
was
had
inside.
a different
Right.
food item.
Fast food
Yeah.
for the masses.
Yeah.
This was a toilet.
Yeah. They were
So they
very-
had modern plumbing. Not
Romans-
modern plumbing.
Yeah,
but,
well, the Romans were very hygienic, so
a bathroom.
they had very sophisticated plumbing and water systems.
And the apartment buildings, called insulae, had, I think it was one bathroom to a floor, so it wasn't like everybody had their own bathroom. So these are some other streets.
And they had different, the baths, the public baths, they had not just one. They had a caldorium, which is hot. Then they had a tepidorium, which is tepid water. And then they had a frigidorium, which is cold. I mean, they were very, very specific. in
Yes,
their They
yes.
could control the water that well that they could change the temperature just a few degrees to
Right.
make it comfortable, and it's just incredible.
This is a typical house of a wealthy person
Right.
with the Paris-style garden,
Mhm.
and is another example. I don't know if that tree was there.
And usually the walls were completely frescoed.
Well, I'm getting to that right
Yeah,
now. The
top
next
to
few
bottom.
pictures, this is an example of that. This is, I'm not sure, I don't think this is yours,
No.
but the next one begins, and we could start
Mhm.
talking about that. Here's
Yeah.
where we begin.
There you
So-
go. Yeah, that's one of the private rooms. As you can see, it's a room that you probably have never seen before in books or anything, because not that many people get to see this. I was really lucky. But they're spectacular. The color, that blue, is just stunning. And then these isolated little small paintings on the middle of each wall. It just really brings your eye to the paintings, and it's
The colors are nice.
and
This
it's
color blue is
that's
magnificent.
pretty close to the color. I was really happy that even though I didn't have any artificial light or anything, and of course I used flash, even though most of the time I didn't even have to use flash because it distorts the color. But yeah, they were just spectacular.
And
Yeah, and they're intact, mostly and covered. The walls were completely covered. Just few chips here and there, few cracks, but you got a real sense of the total environment of the frescoes. It's not just a little painting on a wall. It envelops you. It totally buries you in color and texture and images. It's just they must have been so spectacular. I mean, yeah, look at
that one.
Yeah, and again, that's the real color. I didn't Photoshop these or anything. They're just as they are, and you can see there's barely even any cracks. And the one on the right there, I mean, it's almost
perfect.
It's brand new, like it was painted a
Amazing.
couple of weeks ago.
Amazing.
Yeah, and those reds. Oh man, you just never see reds like that anywhere. Not even hardly in nature. It's just stunning. Really was stunning, and it was really great thrill.
Look at this.
Yeah, and see all the detail, the perspective, and it's pretty accurate, the perspective. And to think that this is all done painstakingly, section by section, painted into fresh plaster, and they just were terrific
Yeah,
painters.
talk about frescoes a little bit.
Okay,
for our
fresco.
audience.
Well, the word fresco in Italian means fresh. So basically what you're doing is you're painting into fresh, it's not really plaster, it's lime and sand. And it's similar to plaster. It's actually harder than plaster. But what you do is you plan out the designs, the sketches around the room. You prepare a certain amount of wall space with the fresh plaster preparation. You put it on the wall, and then you have to quickly sketch into the fresh plaster. A lot of times you make a cartoon, which is a paper
Right,
drawing to
yes.
scale of what you want to paint on the wall. You perforate the lines with a pounce. You perforate it with a little perforated wheel. Go over the lines so there's little holes, perforated holes. Put the paper on the wall. You pounce a little bag of pastel or plaster or charcoal, and you pounce so that the powder goes through the little holes. You take the paper away, and now you have the lines on your wall perfectly accurate to your drawing, but you didn't actually do anything to the wall really.
Mhm.
So you prepare you do that after you put the plaster on, obviously, so you can see the pounced lines, and then you start painting. But you have to paint fairly quickly because you don't want the
Plaster will dry.
plaster to
Right?
dry, although it doesn't, it takes hours for it to dry.
Right.
So what happens, the paint that you apply to the fresh plaster gets absorbed, it gets sucked into the wall, so it actually becomes part of the wall. It's not just on the surface. So it actually gets sucked in sometimes about half an inch. So that's great. That's what you want, because that's why they've lasted 2,000 years. Because if they didn't absorb into the wall, they would have been scraped off, faded, peeled. But because they are actually part of the wall, the color, the pigment is part of the wall, they last forever. And as you can see, it's an absolutely brilliant technique and process, because if they didn't do it this way, none of this would be here. We wouldn't be able to see any of this. It would have all been gone. Faded, peeled, cracked, crumbled.
Now, were these rooms covered in volcanic ash as well? I mean, was the ash in the...
Yeah, it probably
it didn't damage the
filled up.
walls.
It probably filled up not with the liquid, but the hot like carbonic ash, or tufa it's called. And so it filled up, and it kind of preserved it, like flash froze it. It preserved it. Of course, when first you dig out all this dried lava, and then you have to clean the wall. But the wall is actually pretty intact, because it didn't burn. Luckily, it didn't burn the wall, because you can see the color is still brilliant.
Magnificent,
And
just
so,
magnificent.
in a way, it was a nice way to preserve the whole city. And we can enjoy these now, 2,000 years
There's
later.
another example. Look at that color.
Yeah.
That
Now
blues.
remember, these are just private homes. This is nothing special. I mean, these are well-to-do people.
Yeah.
But they're not, they're all like upper middle class, maybe.
Right.
They're not super
Okay,
super
so
rich.
now we're back to this, and this is actually not Pompeii, but this is
No.
from Pompeii.
Well, these were from
But
Pompeii,
removed to
but
the
now
archaeological-
installed in the museum, and they have hundreds of these, and they're all just spectacular. They're not very big. They're only maybe 4 feet long. But they had a lot of these particular types, these Roman ships, which are very interesting looking. They almost look kind of like from another planet or something. But they had a lot of naval paintings, frescoes.
As a matter of fact, I showed a sequence here that, of the paintings you had showed me. And it actually shows a battle in progress, because here is, obviously, if you look very closely, you could see that there are soldiers on board the ships, and they have spears, and they have
Full battle,
shields,
yeah.
right?
Full
And then
battle
as you,
Yeah.
they're kind of getting closer and kind of moving the ships into a position where they're now ready to do battle. And then it gets even closer, where they're actually getting very close to each other. And
Right.
finally, you want me to go back?
Well, I just want to point out, these are battleships, because they have the ram in the front. On the one on the right, you can see that extended.
Yeah, let me.
Is what they would do is they
Right,
would
right.
ram other ships.
Right,
to
right
sink
over
them,
here, this spot
the
right
top
here.
and the bottom.
Right.
So you have two. It's like spears, almost like a.
Well, if you
two
watch the
spears.
movie Ben-Hur, you remember that the guy who was tapping the cadence while the oars were, were the rowers were,
Rowers,
were using the
Yeah,
oars.
right.
One of the speeds was ramming speed, so they
Yeah, and
intended
if
to
you
really.
look how many men there on either side. Look how many oars.
Yes.
They could really get a good clip. Of
According to the
speed.
movie, I don't know if the movie's
They
accurate,
could
but
go pretty fast.
there were 3 guys on each oar. Chained to
They were big, yes, exactly, and on both sides. So
getting very
yeah,
close.
They were mean attack machines. Well, the secret of the Roman Empire is the naval. They were
Right.
the best sailors and the best fighters on the sea. That's why they could conquer everybody. And so that's maybe why they have so many paintings of these ships, because they were an
Right.
important part of the empire. Without
Okay.
them, they would have never. They
And-
couldn't beat all these other.
And here's the
countries.
one that I really loved, because they're practically touching.
Yeah.
And when they got really close, I believe they even boarded the ships and ready to do battle. I don't have one of that showing that, but this is, you can see the two sets of oars are actually touching each other. So, okay, now this is more peaceful looking.
Yes, this is a bucolic with the cherubs and the fawn and the flora and kind of frolicking. This you would have in your home, kind of to give you a kind of a peaceful, tranquil feeling in your living room, and nothing else, nothing political or nothing
Right.
extraordinary, just kind of pretty pictures,
Right.
basically. Yeah, I photographed this because of its pure simplicity, and I'm not even sure if it was done by a Roman. It almost looks like it was carved, by some graffiti guy.
A
or
child almost. Looks
something. Yeah, it
almost
has
childlike.
a beautiful kind of simplicity, and I wasn't sure if it was really old or really just done maybe 2 weeks ago. So I just liked it as a photograph in itself like that.
Yeah, I liked it very much for that reason. Some
Yeah,
more
there are
cherubs.
quite a lot of these kind of frescoes too in the museum.
Right.
Because
This is all from the museum.
yeah.
Oh, so let me.
And they're about a foot high. These black bands, foot high, and they went all around the room, non-stop. And they're kind of allegorical, you know, little stories. It's in a way like a scroll, in a way kind of like an Asian scroll where you can sort of move around the room and sort of read it as a story, and people doing
Here's a
different
real good
things.
close-up.
Yeah, little the wine and oil amphora. Those are amphora on the left.
Right.
And right, and then I found these nice little tiny little vignettes of iconic images, of mythic images, and some of them I knew what they were, some I didn't know what they were. This one I wasn't sure. It looked kind of a combination of 2 or 3 different creatures, and then with an angel or something on its back. It's not a chimera. Chimera is a particular mythological animal. It's part lion, part dog, part dragon, part snake. So yeah, and then these cute little birds just sort of floating around by themselves. Just nothing, real. And they weren't even really that nicely painted, but they just had a sweetness to them.
Well, it looks like the people were trying to create like this tranquil atmosphere inside their houses, and
Right, and then these nice isolated figures. These sometimes were usually in the middle of a beautifully frescoed room, and this is the focal point in the middle of the wall of the room, and usually one on each of the 4 walls. And they were kind of similar in size, and usually male or female figures. Sometimes they had wings, sometimes animals. There's a child there carving something, and I guess everyday scenes, with their typical Roman togas.
I was trying to, you kind of try to figure out what's going on here, and you could see that there's some kind of a matriarch sitting on a chair, and there's the horse over there on the right, and somebody is chiseling on the bottom there, and this fellow in the front is obviously trying to explain something to her as she's seated.
Maybe he's trying to sell the horse to her.
That's the impression that I.
Possibility.
Yes. So women played a very prominent role in Roman society, because obviously this fellow, it's pretty obvious this fellow's trying to convince her of something.
Yeah, and it's funny because you wonder if that horse is a real horse because it's standing on a little dolly kind of thing. It almost looks like a treadmill, actually.
It actually looks like a sculpture of a horse.
Yeah,
maybe he's trying to sell her a sculpture for the house.
And it could be a unicorn also, I'm not sure, because it's white and it looks like it has something on its head. I'm not sure there.
Right.
Yeah. And this is another one of those blue rooms. Either the rooms are blue, bright red, earthy yellow, or that amber color. It's usually one of those 4 or 5 colors. And now these are from the real rooms, not from the museum, because you can see the outer edge of the painted panel is the actual wall. It's not in a frame. The ones in the museum is they're usually framed with a beautiful wooden frame. But
I see.
yeah, but it's nice to, it was just so nice to see these in their natural setting.
Right. You're lucky to have gotten to see that.
These are pretty big. They're about 5 feet square, I would say, 5 or 6 feet square.
There's that's an amphora over there on the floor. That's
a ubiquitous thing about the Romans. They carried everything in those ships and the stores and their homes, and they kept olive oil, grain, wine, water, and pretty much anything.
I like that blue around on the wall. It's just an unbelievable color. I mean, was that is this what happened over time, or was there different shading of blue on the walls then?
Well, I would think that this was even a deeper blue, kind of an ultramarine, almost not quite, but an ultramarine blue, which is a dark blue. But of course, you can see it's faded a little bit.
Yeah.
but it's not that far, I don't think, from the original color.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And there's that
Another room.
ubiquitous red. This is a little dusty. Some of them are not as dusty as
Yeah, and
this.
some of that is peeled off, obviously, so
Yeah,
this is
but
not
still
the
not
perfect
bad,
one.
not bad shape. This was an interesting thing. It looks like an optical illusion, but what you're looking at is this a room in the front, kind of in the foreground. The back wall of the first room is kind of broken in half. You're only seeing the bottom. And then the top of the second room is in sight, so that's a totally different painted image. And so you can see how much painting is on the walls. I mean, just packed with images and perspective. They created this whole another world almost inside of their homes and made them feel a lot bigger the way they knew, because they knew perspective. And which is, this is 500 years before, no, 1,500 years before Da Vinci, when he perfected perspective. But
Right.
they were pretty good, pretty accurate even in those
Yes,
days.
indeed.
So that they were just amazing people. It's just mind-boggling how many,
The Romans were amazing.
how good they were at so many different things, and even it's hard to even compete with them even today.
Sometimes I think that if the Romans had continued, I mean, they had plumbing, they had fresh water coming into the cities to prevent plagues.
Architecture, aqueducts, you name it.
So if that had continued for another 1,000 years.
Oh, they would have probably been to the moon a lot sooner.
Undoubtedly, yes.
Oh,
yes,
really?
undoubtedly.
Yeah, this is in one of those rooms. It's kind of a mandala or an emblem with maybe that was the matriarch of the house, of the family, or not. We're not sure. Could
Right.
be a god. Yeah, and this is kind of like a little altarpiece with a pediment. The pediment is a triangular shape on top, and I'm not sure what that story is there, but
Yeah, snakes have a place.
Snakes have a place.
If you remember the TV series I, Claudius,
Yeah.
as they're showing the credits at the beginning of the show, they show this snake kind of.
Exactly.
So that's something. I'm going to make a request then. I'm going to ask you to ask Eve, your wife, who's
She'll
the
know.
Roman
It
historian, to know
symbolizes
what
something.
that,
I'm
it
not
symbolizes
sure.
something. I should have asked you this. I
yes,
remember seeing this and
yeah.
saying, "Don't forget to ask
Yeah,
for
sorry.
to ask Eve."
Well,
No, it's not
Eve-
your fault.
yeah,
It's my
Eve-
fault for not.
Yes. I know just so much. I'm not the scholar in the
I
family.
know.
But I know.
You're doing a pretty great
Well,
job,
thank
if you ask
thank
me.
you. It all kind of rubs off on me a little bit. But yeah, and what's nice too is when they change the colors. That yellow, the red, and the turquoise, and then the multicolored top area, and it just works together so nicely. It's again, these are ground up. They didn't go to the art supply store to buy these. Remember, the pigments are ground down from minerals, natural earth minerals, ground down with a mortar and pestle, and then added water, and then put into the fresh wall surface. And
Now that's somebody on a chariot,
yes,
but that's not a horse there. That's some kind of a.
Those
is that a seahorse?
are those mythic fish. They're
Right.
sort of like dolphins.
Yeah, it looks like a little like a seahorse.
Kind of, yeah, a combination seahorse and dolphin. Yeah, they're quite common all over. They use them as kind of the motif.
There's another one.
Oh yeah, here's
This
a
guy's
chariot.
riding
Looks
on
like
top
he's
of a crab.
surfing on a crab. Yeah, that's kind of strange. Yeah, I don't remember actually seeing that one, but I guess I was there.
You got great photos of these. These are really good.
Yeah,
This
that first one was a
close-up
little
on it.
blurry, so I took another one just to
Right.
make sure. Yeah, color's not as good, but yeah. And then these other elaborate, very elaborate images.
This looks like a wedding cake almost.
Yeah, they brought elephants from India because the Romans went all the way to India, of course, and so elephants were an exotic animal, which I guess they still are today, actually. So of course they wanted to include them in these exotically, beautifully painted rooms. So, and then these are these little heads and faces that I found here and there. These are very small, like only about 6 or 8 inches. Yeah, this was
Wow,
one of the, this
that's a
was one of
great
the
room.
nicer rooms, and also well preserved rooms, as you can see. There's hardly any missing pieces.
This is
you
a
get a
beautiful
pretty good
room.
idea of what the houses look like. This was really a terrific one because it's all there. It's
This is
all
one of
there.
one of the secrets.
Secret.
Because I don't remember
See,
seeing
because
this.
you never see these in books.
No, you don't.
Yeah. So I'm actually thinking.
As a matter of fact, what I did was I have this book on Pompeii that I kept looking at and comparing what you had with what's in the book. Now, the ones in the book were things from the Archaeological Museum,
Right.
but none of this exists in books.
No, I mean, I hadn't seen these till the day I was there, and,
Yeah.
and I shot all these in one day too.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great day. It was
Wow,
one of those, one of those great days. You know how everybody's life, you have like 5 or 6 really great, wonderful, perfect days.
Right.
Well, this was one of those days. Because,
I have a day like that every Friday
yeah.
between 5 and 6, thanks
Exactly,
to.
exactly. I don't want to forget to mention my fresco tie.
Oh, yes,
This
please.
is,
I forgot to
an
say that.
hand-painted fresco tie. I don't think you're going to find this in Kmart.
No.
And I actually painted this for my wedding day since I was married in Rome. I thought it would be appropriate to have a Roman tie. And basically it was a regular tie, and I covered it with spackle,
Wow.
which is a
Okay,
modern
fantastic.
day
Wow.
version of a fresco
Yeah,
wall, and then
yeah.
painted with tempera paint. And broke it and cracked it, and voila, here's your fresco tie.
Amazing. Mr. Italy.
This is 25 years old.
Really? Well, I still love that story. So,
Yes.
that was like a
Yeah.
great story. And
And-
I read recently that, I'm reading the Florentine, and one of the people always write into the mayor of Florence,
Mhm.
asking him questions. And one of the questions was, we were married in the Palazzo Vecchio, these people said.
That's pretty
And we
good.
heard that people who were married in the Palazzo Vecchio in Florence get a medal that indicates, to celebrate the occasion, and they hadn't gotten one, and he gave them a special pass to come and get one. So
Oh, that's nice.
you have a great remembrance.
I didn't get a plaque or anything when I got married, but this will do. And I only wear this on special occasions, and I thought
Oh.
this show, the Pompeii show on Allen's Italy, is a
Thank you.
special occasion.
That is a special occasion, and I thank you very much for that.
Mhm.
So,
Yes, that's
is this from the Villa dei Misteri?
Misteri.
The
Villa
Villa
of
of Mysteries?
no. This is still the private homes, the secret
Oh.
homes. Yeah.
Because some of those from that villa were kind of
Well, there's
provocative, sexually provocative.
right, and then a lot of
This
the
looks a
red
little-
walls too. Yeah, but those are they're so common, and every Pompeii book has those.
Okay.
So,
I need to allow a couple of minutes. I wanted to just show this one.
mhm.
This is a great
That's
one
a
also.
beauty. That's a beauty. Yeah. In
So-
fact, I have that one. I made
Oh yeah, show
okay,
us this.
Yeah, this is.
You have to be quick though,
new
because I have a
series.
1 minute.
Okay, new series of photo coasters that I make on Italian marble, and that's the image you see here.
Oh right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, and then I have a variety of these secret rooms, these beautiful blues and beautiful reds, and so I make these, and I'm gonna have some in Woodstock in a couple
Oh,
of
really?
stores. Yeah,
Oh
I
okay.
just started packaging them in these
We'll look out for them.
nice little boxes.
We'll
so,
look out for them.
Yeah.
I think we'll stop here
Mm-hmm.
because I would like to just say something. I announced the show Micromorphic that Laura is curating, which opens tomorrow for the opening, the official opening. But I failed to mention the other 5 participants, so I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The other participants, who are all wonderful artists, so Laura will have some pieces, and then also Jen Bradford will be there from, I believe, Beacon, New York, I think she's from, and Constance Jacobson is from Boston, and Karen Kamenetsky is from Brattleboro, Vermont, and Jody Colella is also from Massachusetts, and of course Susan Spencer Crow from Kingston. So I would have been bereft, and I would have felt very badly if I hadn't mentioned those people. And they're wonderful artists, and feel free to come. And on behalf of Frank, would you like to say something quickly?
Well, I just want to add that Laura's show is phenomenal. I saw it earlier today, and it's absolutely a beautiful, perfectly curated show in the space. The work is all high quality, and I think it's worth a trip to Woodstock just to see Laura's
Thank
show.
you.
And I'm not just saying that.
No, coming from you, that's,
because I know Alan. But no,
Right.
really, it's a really, because I've
Thank you,
curated
that's
a
a
lot of
great honor.
shows, and I know how hard it is, and she did a great job.
okay. So on behalf of Frank, I'd like to say once again, buona notte e buona fortuna, and we will see you next week.